Hello everyone. You are all welcome to the Africa Youth Conference. We would be discussing about the African leadership question, problems and prospects.
Can we hear the statement of the problem?
The African continent and the African people are currently in the deepest part of a quagmire from the effects of colonialism, continual exploitation, intentional degradation, corruption, ineptitude, nepotism and a blinding brainless ruling class. As a young man myself, I am 64 years of age now. People who promised my generation, the youth back then, that we are the leaders of tomorrow are still ruling in Africa and producing nothing but ruination for the greatest continent made by God on this earth.
The rising generation/youth of Africa, having been beguiled by the text of being the leaders of tomorrow, never learned that tomorrow never comes.
The dominant feeling is that we do not have leaders in Africa. The kindest ways to refer to those who are sitting over the fortunes of Africa are as rulers. Personally, I see those in power in Africa at present, with the exception of Mr. Paul Kagame of Rwanda, as agents of ruin bent on destroying the continent, with the connivance of foreign business and political interests, through the suppression of the youth and all voices of dissent.
From Uganda to Côte d'Ivoire, to Nigeria to Cameroon, with Nigeria being the worst-case scenario, we have deadwoods and old men in their 80s and 90s ruling as presidents and senators. Some of these people started ruling from the age of 28 years of age and are now in their 90s and still ruining the continent.
Being totally disconnected to the needs of the future of the continent, represented by the young people of Africa, they have ensured that the educational system is either faulty or does not work at all, with universities opening for only a quarter of the time they are supposed to be open each year.
African rulers, like witches, are happy to kill their young ones. In Nigeria, the Nigeria police force and the military delight in unlawful and extrajudicial killing of their young ones, under guises that does not in any way warrant the use of water cannon for dispersing the people. The #EndSARS protest in Nigeria was murderously quelled by live bullets, reportedly killing over 70 youths.
Our program?
We, at the African Town Hall Online Television, believe that the problem of Africa is leadership. In line with our main objective of helping the rising generations of Africa to speak out, and let their voice be heard, with a view to changing the current detrimental narrative, we have created the African leadership question, problems and prospects.
Wonderful. This program, the African leadership question, problems and prospects, is set up to bring the rising generations together to seek to understand the problem of leadership in Africa and to consider the prospects for the desired change. With us in the studio to discuss this topic are rising generations persons from all over Africa. In this month, December 2020, we would assemble every Wednesday, first at 11 a.m. in the morning and then at 9 p.m. Nigerian time to discuss this issue. It is hoped that before the end of December 2020, more than 100 African youth have been able to share their opinion on this matter. At the end, we would articulate a communique that would be read on the last day of our meeting. We invite all African youth to come and participate, both from our studios and from comments on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter, to provide direction for the African youth both in the continent and in the diaspora, a way forward for the renaissance of the African continent.
So, join us. And stay tuned, and keep participating.
It will now be my pleasure to invite our first speaker at the conference today, George Blue Kelly from Nigeria.
Thank you, Mr. Francis. It's been a pleasure to be here again and discuss this issue that plagues our country, Nigeria. You know, backstage in the group chat we created, I've seen a couple of people sharing their thoughts and ideas about this issue of corruption in Nigeria. And what I want to say is, first, I believe that with platforms like this platform you've created, that is giving opportunity to young people to voice their opinion, I believe when we begin to see this kind of platform pop up everywhere, it gives you that confidence and that hope that Nigeria can someday become a better place. And I strongly believe that. I strongly believe that Nigeria will get to the promised land. I strongly believe that because when we look at where we've been, we look at the things we've been through, it's impossible to believe that we can get to where we are right now. But still, let's focus on what is important. Let's focus on what's on ground, the problem that Nigeria is facing right now. So, can Nigeria really get to where they want to be? Can we get to that promised land to fulfill our potential? The answer is yes, but then it begs the question, how? How do we get there? And I think the basic needed factor, if that is needed for Nigeria to advance to the next level, is the sense, Simon, that you, Mr. Francis, have been preaching, which is leadership. I think that is the core value that is needed, because what does it take to change a nation? What does it take for a country to move to the next level? Various things are needed. First, you need to look at the economy of the country. Is it flourishing? Is it successful? And how do you determine the success of the economy? Are the citizens happy? Are the citizens receiving money? Are there exchange of money, goods, and services? These are the things you look if you want to determine if an economy is flourishing, which in turn translates into the wealth of the nation. Okay, that is one. The next thing is security. Is the country safe? Are the citizens trustworthy? Can they carry out transactions? Because without trust, without the ability to say, I trust that you will deliver on your promise. I trust that you will deliver the goods you promised my company. Without that foundation of trust, business cannot grow. And then we also look at in the security aspect where people are held accountable. When a politician, for example, breaks the law and defrauds the nation, do we have that assurance, that belief that they will be brought to justice? All these are the things that helps the nation to be secure. People knowing that they will be held accountable, people knowing that they will be held responsible for their actions. The next thing I think makes a country successful is its international relationship with other countries, how it carries out business with other countries, its import and its export. These are the areas that helps a country progress to the next level. But then, how do we achieve this? It starts from up there. It starts with the right leader, with the right leadership quality. So in order for us to get there, we need to be able to have leaders who are accountable, leaders who are willing to do the work, as well as leaders who have the technical know-how of how to run a country. And that brings us down to what is a leader? How can one become a leader of quality? It starts with education. And this is the area where I think we need to invest more time into building our nation. Nigeria is where it is today, and Africa as a whole, we are where we are today because of our educational sector. I believe that poverty itself is not a happening. It is not an event. It is not something that just happens. Poverty is a way of thinking. It's a lifestyle. The results of decisions that have been made. So, in order to reduce poverty, we must increase education. We must begin to adopt new ways of thinking, new ways of doing things, begin to set up industries. And it all starts with changing our educational sector. I have friends who have graduated from the universities, and so many are becoming entrepreneurs. They are looking to sponsor themselves, go into business for themselves to see how they can survive. And when you look at this rhetoric across the country, you see that to some degree, even our educational sector has become obsolete. Our education are training students to to be professionals of courses that are no longer in vogue, to be graduates of professions that we do not have the infrastructure available for them to work. And that shows how poor our educational sector has been. So for any country to begin to think to grow, to think to develop, they must have that educational foundation first. And it all starts with having good leaders. So what is a leader and how can one become a good leader? First, leadership is simply having the ability to lead yourself or a group of people. The word itself, leadership, is self-explanatory because in it you have lead. A leader is someone who leads people. Now the question is, lead people to where? Because before you can be able to lead, you need to know where you're going. And then secondly, it's one thing to know where you're going. You must have the rhetorical skills to be able to communicate that dream to the people. You must be able to have verbal power, persuasive ability to communicate to people that, okay, here is where you are. Here is where you can be. And I'm ready to take you there. That is a skill that doesn't come natural. And that is something that for anyone who wishes to be a leader, who wishes to lead an organization or a country someday, to make a difference in their world, it is something that you have to work on yourself. You have to develop yourself. You have to take the time to study, burn the midnight oil. And it's a gradual process. But as long as you know what you want, you know where you're going, you can do it. So the next thing about leadership is there are different areas of leadership. A leader is someone who not only know how to communicate the dream, a leader must also be someone who is intellectually astute, which means to be able to persuade people of a vision that you have is one thing. Now, the position you are about to occupy, you need to know the job. You need to know what it is you want to do. How do you get to do it? Let's say, okay, for example, you are the president. You become the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, what does it take to rule a nation? That's a tough question. Do you understand politics? Do you understand how a government is run? Do you understand the correlation between a central bank and the central government? Do you understand how an economy can be made to be successful? So these are the things that if you're having the dream to become a president, to become a leader, you must have the intellectual understanding. It is not just having the passion and the ambition to want to lead. You must have a deep understanding of your office. You don't need to know everything. You don't need to know how a market is formed or how legislatures are passed, but you need to understand the basic mechanics, how they function. You need to understand what policies are and how they can be corrected or amended. So the next thing that a leader should know is a leader should not only have rhetorical skills, the ability to persuade, have an intellectual understanding of the job. Thirdly, a leader must be someone who is morally upright, because you are not just leading a mechanical path, because from afar, that's how it seems like you're looking to the nation, you're seeing the different structure of government, you're seeing the economy, you're seeing policies, you're seeing the House of Senate. It's more than that. You need to have the moral uprightness to understand that every decision made affects the life of the citizens. You need to come to an understanding that you are not just leading one person, you're leading a group of people that have differing beliefs from you. Okay, you're the president. How are you going to handle people who does not share the same religious faith as you? So you're a Christian or a Muslim. You're going to be leading everybody who comes from different religious background, Muslim and non-Muslim, Christians and unbelievers. The same thing goes with, let's say, the gay people. How do you handle them? To be a president is not just to have the ability to rule over certain people. You need to be morally upright. You need to be ethical. These are the things that comes with personal development and growth. These are necessary. It is what makes a leader a good leader. And we take Obama, for example. I've spoken with so many people and I've realized that a lot of people, a lot of Nigerians, Christians, do not like Obama. And we got talking and realized that they made it clear why they don't like Obama, because he supports the gay community. He legalized gay. And when we hear such a thing, we feel, he must be an antichrist. He must be a non-believer. But the truth is, it is not that easy. The fact that you're a president or a leader and you're a Christian at that, it does not give you the right to override somebody's else right, somebody else's freedom of choice to live freely. So we need to have an understanding of what it takes to lead. Because when you lead, you're leading people from across the spectrum, that you share difference in beliefs, religious belief. You share different opinion in policies. You share different opinion in in abortion. Say, for example, pro-life or pro-gay. Do you support abortion or do you not? How do you handle these things? So you need to be intellectually astute. At the same time, you need to be someone who is morally upright, who is able to judge a situation objectively and not just focus on your own biases. And so these are the things that it takes to become a good leader, and these are the things that it takes to to lead a nation. So I believe that Nigeria, we are getting to that point. And I want to round up with this point that I do not believe that the change we want to see in Nigeria, in Africa, would come once we get a new leader, and it will make everything go away. I don't think that, but I think that the first good leader will get in office, I think he's going to make a very big impact, and he's going to lay like the groundwork for other leaders to 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 follow, a foundation for others to follow. So I hope that with these few ideas that I've been able to pass something to young Nigerians out there who wish to who have the dream to someday lead their nation, to someday make a difference in that country, Nigeria. So I hope I see somebody out there tomorrow who would be campaigning and making a difference with the gifts that God has blessed them with. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, George, for being here in this auspicious occasion of this conference. It is always a pleasure for me to have you around, and I know that you have a great hang on what is going on in Africa. Thank you very much. As you spoke, a number of your peers have left some comments. We'll bring those up. But before I begin to bring them up, I want to put some questions across to you. Some of them you have touched as you made your comments at this conference. Then, and when I ask them again, I just want you to give us additional information on the matter.
All
Before that
right.
happens, viewers, we invite you to make your comments and ask questions. This is an engagement hour for the rising generations of Africa. That's what we are doing here. We want to get everyone involved. We want to get everyone to make a contribution and a comment. So bring your comment. Many people have shown up on the chat bar viewing this live broadcast of this conference, of the African Youth Conference, discussing the African leadership question, problems and prospects. And we have just had George Blue Kelly from Nigeria address us. Okay, George, here is something that we are thinking about leadership that we want you to really emphasize or re-emphasize depending on what you have done with it before. The number one is, what do you think about leadership in Africa currently? The leadership in Africa currently, what are your thoughts on it?
I think it's a mess. I honestly think so. I think it's chaotic. In fact, there is nothing to write home about, and I'm not surprised really, because leadership is is a level of being that cannot be achieved unless someone has gone through a process of refined learning and refined thinking. And when you really know what it means to be a leader and what it takes to be a leader, you realize that those people we refer to as leaders in Africa right now, they are a far cry from that. I mean, they don't come close. And when we look at history, history has given us a number of lists to see what a true leader is and what it should look like. The like of Mahatma Gandhi, JFK, MLK, and so many more. So these are criteria that we should use to measure our current leaders. Are any of them up to par? No. And we see the effect of putting leaders who are not competent in office. We have corruption, we have poverty, we have policies that go nowhere. We have branches of government that does not exist, but they just exist on paper just to extort money from the people. So, in my opinion, the leadership in Africa is a failure, and we need a grassroots education to begin to uproot everything. It's a disaster.
That is the truth. In my opening remark on Wednesday, the 9th of December, I said that I do not call those who are sitting across African fortunes currently leaders. The nicest thing I can call them are rulers. And that is
Absolutely.
being nice. That is being nice. But I
Yes.
think you put it in a better way. They are total mess. And this is why we are at this conference. Okay, the next question I want you to review with us is, does these problems have a solution? You hinted grassroots education. Maybe you can use this chance to expand on that and then advance other ideas that you think can become solution to the problem of leadership in Africa.
It all starts with education, really. And I know we Africans, especially blacks, we like to think we are very smart. We like to think we can outsmart the Europeans, but the truth is we are not. We are not. Intelligence is seen as an expression of attitude. It is reflected in how you behave, how you conduct yourself and carry out your business. And we are not doing a very good job in the way we conduct ourselves. We know the the leaders are corrupt, but we can't change them, right? We can't change the leaders. They said that it is easier to raise strong children than to repair broken adults, and that's the principle I think we should focus on. Let's leave the leaders as they are, ignorant and corrupt. Soon they would get out of office. Let's focus on the young ones right now who have the inspiration to get to go there. And that's where I think education should come in. It is very, very mandatory that we begin to, with the education system we have now, they should be torn down, and a new one should be reestablished. But we do not have the power to do that right now. But what we can do is to raise a leader who can, and put him there. And with the right team by his side, we can be able to begin to restructure our education system. We need a revamp from the elementary level to the tertiary level. We need a revamp. We need new courses in our schools. We need students to be able to know that they are going to school because they have a role in the society, a role in the economy. We want every children to grow up in a country where they can dream to become leaders and presidents in the country that they grow up someday. And we can only do that when we begin to change our grassroots education. We'll begin to put things in place. It really starts from there. We change the mindsets of the young ones, because the truth is there's so much we can do with with the time we have as humans. But if we are able to sow the right seed in the young ones that are growing up, they can be able to think farther than we did, and hopefully they can be able to do more than we were able to do.
Okay, that is very helpful. I'd like you to watch this video skit that contains a speech by Wole Soyinka. And one of the things I want you to do with us there is, part of the issues we have is that the youth themselves seem unprepared. They are not all focused. There are a number of focused youths who are really doing something both for their personal development and for the development of the community. But it seems we have a lot more people who are not doing anything now. And how our last our face conference speaker put it, she said the youth need to wake up themselves because they are not doing the right thing. They have some preparations to do. Let me play this 1 minute video from Wole Soyinka. Can you join all of that together as the last question that I'm going to ask you before I go to the audience question and comments, so that you can help us know what the young ones themselves should be doing to change the current
So they must first
narrative.
of all distance themselves and ask themselves what kind of society do they really want, ideally. And they must understand that in order to replace a leadership that has failed, no matter where, they must use different methods. They must learn to approach the community on their own basis, not simply by spraying money all over the place because they don't have it. They must use the technology such as social media instead of abusing it, which many of them do. They wake up in the morning and all they do is try to be the first to comment. And their comment is vapid, unserious, normally usually abusive, instead of arguments, instead of analysis, instead of a cogent approach to social problems. And you wonder, what kind of generation is this that cannot understand the magnificence of this technology?
So, take it over.
Yeah, Wole Soyinka is brilliant. He's a phenomenon, and I wish we had more people like him, more people who are intellectually astute. And everything he said is true. The truth is, if the youth must have a shot at changing anything in this country, they must do it in a way that is different from what has already been in place. They must orient themselves differently. They must conduct themselves in a way that shows a difference in not just intelligence, but in leadership as well as in character. And it comes down to personal development. I mean, we have to realize that we are only an expression of our way of thinking, of our mind. The Cartesian says, I think, therefore I become. So for a leader out there who is looking forward, who has a dream, the passion to run for office, my advice I would say is exactly what Wole Soyinka have said, is to focus on yourself, to read the necessary books, to take on the necessary study, and to start somewhere. And that is necessary because you need to gain experience. You need to have understanding of what you want to do, start somewhere, go to organization, volunteer for political rally, get a group of people, speak to them, and just put yourself out there and begin to operate in a different way from what the people are used to. I want to make another reference to Barack Obama again, because I love his intelligence and charismatic personality. In 2004, Obama gave a speech in a convention, and he did not run for the presidential office until 2008, if I'm not mistaken. But it was the speech he gave in 2004 that made him to be able to win the presidential election years after when he ran for office. And why was that? Because people could see that this man was dynamic. He was bringing something different, something new, a new philosophy, a new way of thinking. He brought hope, he brought a new energy. He was young and he was passionate. So that dynamic rubbed off on people, and he was able to win people over. And I think that is a good example for our young leaders, our young Nigerians. If they want to make a difference, they want to stand out, they must learn to do things differently. They must work on themselves. They must make sure they see things differently. They have a vision that they take the country to. They must not operate on the same principle that didn't get anywhere. So I think that is my opinion on what young leaders should do to make a difference.
Okay. Thank you very much. We've had some comments that I would like to pull up for you to take a shot at. The intention is for you to review these comments and situate them on this conference. And if there are questions that are in any of those comments, to respond to those comments. The first one we have here is coming from Bright Additional, and he said, my concern is not just about bad leadership in Africa, but my question to you, Blue, is, do you think African youths are prepared for legitimate leadership? I think you kind of run across to that place, and you can as well add more voice there. Did you get that?
Yeah, I can see that. I think there are well-meaning young Nigerians who wish well, who desire to do well, but I don't think they understand yet the gravity of the office of the president. I think the leaders we have now have done such a bad job that anyone thinks they can do that job when they get it, which is understandable. But I believe that I believe the youth in Nigeria, they have the desire, they have the passion, but they lack certain other qualities that is needed. I think they lack the technical know-how of what it takes, what it truly takes to run a country. Because you have a passion, the desire, and you join a couple of forums, you read books, doesn't necessarily mean and successfully run a nation. I mean, it's a huge task. But I'm not saying to discourage them or anyone. I'm saying this to prepare them so they can be equipped to do that job when they get there than what we have now. So yes, I think a lot of Nigerian youths, they are ready to assume that leadership role.
Okay, thank you very much. And we have this comment from Abdul. Abdul is from Uganda. He says, Mr. Kelly's presentation is on point, but I wish to ask, you said poverty can be eliminated by education. However, this education was designed by the colonial masters, and lots of the African nations still carry on that type of education where students are taught to be job seekers, not creators and inventors. How best can we tackle this education system?
Um, can you hear me? Because it was hardly here. Can you hear me? Let me know if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Yes, on the subject of education, and the truth is, education is mandatory. You can't move a nation forward when over half of its population are not rightly educated. And yes, Mr. Abdul is right about the like he said that the education we have now was handed to us by our colonial master, by the colonial master. And that is true. And that also shows they failed because at least they gave us something. No, it was to us to get it. It was to us to get it because we are right from there. We've been caused by leadership. So none of them about doing that. But we are living difference now. We are living in times where we can see disparity between our country and other countries. It's the difference between generations. This is where we and this is where we just have to follow that there. Education again. We can do anything. I can do is to put someone that can help us with the educational sector. We change it. Education. We need to have things like philosophy, like to the branch of science that the West relish. We need to introduce this new and better philosophy into our universities, into our school, so that our kids will to graduate and they'll go into new skills and mindset. Hope.
It seems
Better
George.
government
Go ahead.
in place that
I
will
think
make
there are
available
some technical issues. Their network is struggling.
that must
Can you restate
but
that a
right
little
now
bit?
it's not change.
Yeah. Hello, George. Are you still there? Okay. We are not able to hear George very well. There's likely some technical issues from his own side. I would like to know if viewers can hear me well, and if the only issues with getting things clear is only coming from George, so we know where that technical problem is happening from, because we are still viewing the African Youth Conference on the theme, the African Leadership Question, Problems and Prospects. African Leadership Question, Problems and Prospects. Um, so I think the issues had to do with George having quite some issues in that place. Let me raise a few of the comments that have come during his speech and talk, and then after that we will invite our next speaker for today. Okay, Bright Addition also said, Mr. Blue, you are in. Okay, are you in any registered political party? If you's coming up for change in Africa don't think they need to start getting involved now rather than tomorrow via a recognized political party. If youths coming up for change in Africa, don't you think they need to start getting involved now rather than tomorrow via a recognized political party? I think this question has come on a number of times in the course of both this conference and other discussions that have been going on relating to the African leadership problem, or the African leadership question, the problems in it. It have been coming up that nobody can give you power. If the youth need to get involved, I need to change what is happening, they need to get involved now. So I think, I'm sure that George will agree with that if he were to still be around. We expect that he might pop up at some other point, but when he does, then maybe at that point we can get George's back here. Let's see if he can finalize his own angle, and then we will continue with this the next segment of the conference.
I'm so sorry. My battery was low, and I did not notice, so my phone went off.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're welcome. Those things happen. Okay, so we were discussing additional question on talking about education. I think Africa. Okay, no, you were discussing. I think you were still discussing Abdul's question, right?
Yes, about the education.
Can you cap what you want to say about Abdul's question, and then we'll move to the next one. Just summarize what you want to say in that angle. Also,
Yes, Abdul made a good statement that our education sector was given to us by the colonial masters, and that is true. But I said earlier that it was up to us to upgrade it, to make it better. Now we didn't, and that is on us. It is not the colonial master. Now we have other nations who are ahead of us, and they stand as a good example for us to follow. So we know what we need to do. So the educational sector needs to be revamped. It needs to be restructured. We need to introduce modern courses and change so many things in the educational sector. But we can only do that, like I said, if we are able to put a leader up there, and he can begin to lay the groundwork, the foundation. Like I said, the problem of Nigeria is going to take time, but I believe we can start now, just as we are doing here today.
Okay, great. That's good. And well, we added that time that additional said, talking about education, I think African leaders are not interested in improving educational system because they know that the youth in Africa don't school because of tomorrow. Because of tomorrow leadership impact. Rather, they school just to earn, as a means to earn a means. So I think we'll take that as a comment. And then there's Bryce say one more thing, which I think you need to make a comment on quickly, and that is that he said, Mr. Blue, are you in any registered political party? That's the first question. And then the next question he asks here, if youths coming up for change in Africa, okay, if youths coming up for change in Africa, don't you think they need to start getting involved now rather than tomorrow via a recognized political party? What can you say quickly about that?
Okay, right now I am not in any political party, but I did see during the NSAS protests, I did see a new political movement. It was like YDP, Youth Democratic Party or something, and it was encouraging. It was encouraging, and I think it's a good awareness. It's a good movement, but when it comes to political parties, I would advise that anyone who has political ambition should do that, get involved with people who are into political party movement. But first, I think they should start somewhere, maybe House of Senate, House of Rep, to get accustomed to the political atmosphere. So when it comes to political party, it's easy to join a party. It is, and I think with the right people, it's not a bad idea.
Okay, thank you very much. We have also this comment from, or I think it's a question from Ngobi Sansin Chinedu, and he said, do you think Godfatherism brought us to where we are, and how can we do away with it?
Godfatherism did not bring us to where we are, but it sure did play a role, because when people come to, and that is a good question, because talking about party that Adeshina talked about earlier, and this is a thing, and this is something I want to encourage young leaders. If you have a political ambition, try as much as possible to stay away from those who have been in politics before, because when you go seeking for help, then they become your political godfather, and when you get into office, they are entitled to benefits, and that is how it starts, and that is basically the concept of godfatherism. And yes, it puts more hope on an already sinking ship. And if a young leader can start on a clean slate and get to the top, then I think he has a better shot of destroying this godfatherism phenomenon.
Okay. Thank you very much, George. It has been a great pleasure being with you in this conference. You can hang in there and keep viewing, and we'll take you off the studio in a short while, but we want you to please accept our gracious thanksgiving of the fact that you were able to make time today to be here and share your position on this matter and respond to these questions that our viewers has presented.
Thank
Viewers, we are
you.
so very
It's a
grateful that
pleasure.
you're still here in good numbers. We want you to continue coming. And while you're here, we desire a number of things from your hand. One, we want you to like this program. We want you to love it. We want you to leave a comment on the topic, which has to do with the African leadership question, problems and prospects. We also want you to ask a question, which our speakers will respond to in due course. We also invite you to come and speak yourself, whether you are a young person or an old person, because the issues at stake here, the problem that leadership is bringing to Africa is not affecting only the young people. They are at most risk, but even old people like me are suffering because we do not have leadership in Africa. So we will invite everyone to come to this program and do what they must do to make things work out for the rest of Africa. George, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Okay, viewers, we invite you to stay tuned because more is coming. After this commercial break, we will take on Ahmed Nzubepie from Cameroon. He will be our next conference speaker. And after his speech, we'll take some of the questions that he might be, he could respond to for us, and then the questions that our viewers are asking. Please keep your comments coming, keep your love and likes coming, because that's how this conference will get to many people and touch hearts, touch minds, and then begin the change that we want. Please, let's go for a commercial break. When we return, Ahmed Nzubepie from Cameroon will be our next speaker. Graceworth Nigeria Limited is a company limited for service in security consulting, security training, asset protection in Nigeria. The company is based in Wuse 2, Abuja, Federal Capital Territory of Nigeria. The company is made up of super level security professionals whose calling and love and passion in life is to help people to stay safe and secure. If you have need to receive more knowledge, more training and education in security, we invite you to contact Graceworth Nigeria Limited. Thank you for being with us. Now, it will be my pleasure to invite in our studios today Ahmed Nzbepie from Cameroon. Ahmed, welcome to the conference.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Francis. The pleasure is mine.
Okay.
I'm happy to be amongst brothers and sisters from the African continent to talk on the subject matter at hand.
Okay, thank you. Welcome. Please take the floor.
Okay. Looking at the leadership problem, permit me introduce myself. I am Ahmed Zuber Epie Darabi. I am a Cameroonian and I live in Cameroon, specifically in the town of Kumba. Kumba is it's in the English-speaking part of Cameroon, which is also one of the crisis zone, a zone which has been hit by the Anglophone crisis. It's a pleasure here being able to talk on the subject matter at hand, on the problems of African leadership and the prospects to move on, the trajectory of development and saving Africa's future and her youths as well. African continent has all that it demands to be a better place for you and me, but we are surprised that we are living in poverty and yet in an affluent society. And this is all caused by the bad leadership. I listened to my brother George speak, but when I look at the Federal Republic of Nigeria, they are doing better, unlike those countries like my country here, Cameroon, which was taken over by France sometime in the 19th century, in the 90s. Africa's problem of leadership stems from the colonial era where our fathers were told what to do. And these things they still do till this date. And the only benefit they are given, what benefits them is that they are maintained in power for too long. Our fathers were told what to do by means of the cane in the time of slavery and by means of strict instruction in the time of colonialism, and they have always looked upon the white man as their master. And today, what is done in Africa is never to the benefits of the Africans, but to the benefits of those who they recognize as their masters. That's why you would see that in Africa, when it comes to the building of roads, it is not the Africans who have been to the polytechnic schools. It is the Chinese or the Europeans or the Americans who are taking these contracts. When it comes to the solutions, like coming up with better policies in Africa, you would hear that the Africans are concerting Europe and America, like in the time when the former president of Gambia, Yahya Jammeh, was to be ousted from power. President Muhammadu Buhari had to consult the United Nations. That was good, but the intervention of the West in the matters of Africa, especially on the time of Yahya Jammeh, was not welcomed. So the problem with African leadership is that we always listen a lot from the outside, and the outside world would tell us a lot of things, and most of the things which they would tell us will be mostly to their benefit. And when we keep doing these things which are in the benefits of these Europeans and the Americans and the Chinese who are now taking Africa, the Africans themselves are neglected. The Africans themselves have no place in their own affluent society. And that's a problem of bad leadership. In Africa, what we have in our continent is not leadership. We have a kind of autocratic rule. We have a kind of gerontocratic structure where power belongs mostly to the old. And these old people are groomed, have been groomed from their young moments in life till when they are old, so that they would be able to impart what they were taught by the Europeans and the Americans, so that they rule Africa to their personal benefit and not to the benefit of the common interest. And this alone has made African continent really behind. Today, Africa cannot dare even to move on, especially with the emergence of technology. Africa is behind in not just in technology, but in many other stuff, because we are years of wood and drawers of water. And this has been instituted by the colonial system. It has been instituted by the colonial system through their agents who are those in power. I dare not say they are leaders, because looking at the agenda, the African agenda on every aspect, talk less of 2020 agenda of silencing the guns in Africa to even 2063 agenda, you will see that they are not working for African interests. So we dare not call them leaders, we call them misleaders, because they are misleading the African agenda. But what is happening to our continent is not a reason why we as Africans should back off. Instead, we need to move and improvise, try our best to see what we can do to be able to move Africa from the status quo and tell a different story of the African continent. So, with this, how do we go about this? African leaders should begin to realize that the continent Africa needs them. The African continent needs them to do the right thing. The youth not excluded. The youth who are in positions of power should begin by understanding that change begins from us. So in every of our daily life, we should make it in such a way that we do not find ourselves in a kind of corruption. We do not find ourselves in a kind of misdeed which does not reflect goodwill for social or national or political progress. Africa is beautiful when you look at her natural resources. Our leaders need to exploit this. But when you look into the African continent, you also have to understand that we can move on with this. So we need to encourage economic growth, more companies, more work is to be done in the economic sector so as to create more jobs for the African youths and the African people, so as to move away from poverty. It is not a good thing when When we talk of an affluent society like Africa, then we are talking of poverty, and yet we are in an affluent society. So we need to be able to create companies, and we should not wait on government to do this for us, because looking at the African status quo, the leadership status quo, it shows that we cannot really keep on waiting on the government, but we have to understand that we are part of the government. Africans should begin to impact that positive aspect of them in one another, so that we can move with goodwill, so that when we find ourselves in power, in positions of leadership, we will not dare to be afraid to continue that work of goodwill, as it is said that charity begins at home. Africans, the prospects are there. It is just left for us to exploit them. The issue is we need to change our mindset. We need to think different from the way our leaders are thinking. We need to look at Europe and Americans as human beings and not as gods, so that we do not recognize them as masters. In Africa today, we believe more in European works rather than our work. That's why we do not work. Let us create avenues of job creation. Let Africans engage in this, and those who know how to do these things should impact the others, because the education system is failing. Worst is that which is instituted in French Cameroon, in French Africa, excuse me, and Cameroon not excluded. Cameroon happens to be a country which is French and English, but the majority is French speaking. So we experience more of the French issues than even the Englishman's issues here. Let us move with Africa to a better level where we would be proud to say, I am African. And how do we do this? We, as the African common people, must not fear to inform government in every opportunity which we have to meet with them. Let us know that let us believe in ourselves. Yeah, Africans must begin to believe in themselves. Let us begin to believe in ourselves. Let us begin to think out of the box. We are not children of a lesser God. We can do what any other race can do. So it is not left for government or Africa to inform us, because the problem of leadership in Africa has put the Africans behind the bars of poverty, so that the Africans are now focusing first on what to eat and not on what to do. So the reason I suggest that we should empower ourselves economically, socially, is first to come against that poverty, so that we would be able to have a free mind. You know, an empty belly cannot have to inform the mind of sense. We would have an empty belly and only have a mind which is geared towards the demand of food, so that the poverty which has been instituted in Africa would only let Africans to look for food to eat, and it might come anyway through corruption or whatsoever means. That is why I suggest that let us build Africa ourselves by getting into the entrepreneurial aspect of it, building Africa, creating jobs, trying to alleviate poverty. With this, I would say thank you, and I'm open to the question, so.
Thank you very much, Ahmed. Ahmed from Cameroon had just finished addressing the conference. Viewers, we are grateful that many of you are still showing up in the console. We invite you to continue to participate by asking questions which Ahmed will help us to answer, or any of the other presenters. Ahmed, before you go, I have a few questions I'd like you to help us address. Now, your speech has touched on all the levels and all the questions that we have listed, one way or the other. But I would like you to throw more emphasis on what the youth themselves can begin to do now to help begin the change that we are looking for. Because somebody need to start something right now. And those who were with us on the first day, Barrister Nairo from Tanzania called on the rising generations of Africa to begin to learn now personal development, grow themselves from different areas of life, not just the foreign education given to us on how to obey. So, what can you recommend for the African generation right now they can begin to do to cause change, the change that we are looking for?
Okay, thank you very much, sir. The African generation, that is, there is a saying which says that the youths are the leaders of tomorrow. So if the youth of Africa recognize that they are leaders of tomorrow, then they must begin to partake in positions of leadership now. And the youth should also know that the leadership which they are be taking on must be not a kind of partisan interest thing, but a common interest thing. Youths must not be without the more you should partake in youth programs and see how they can create an impact, and also let the programs create an impact on them. The
Okay,
African youth,
go
the
ahead, go ahead.
African youth also should also begin to engage in job creation. Yeah, I know that our education system is a failure. Yeah, the education system is a failure. That's why in my own country, Cameroon, for you to get into public service, you need to go through, especially in the administrative part of the public service, you must go through a school called ENAM or stuff like this. But it's not working for the country. It's not working for us, because if you're been to school, why would you need to go to another kind of school to be trained to do stuff like that? Why are this not just recommended in universities, where you can leave from these universities to this place of work? Now, we need to, as African youth, shy away from the thoughts, the kind of thinking of the old people in power now. We need to observe how our leaders, no, I dare not call them leaders, our rulers are in power now, and need to observe their own weaknesses and their strengths, and look for opportunities to make progress out of that. Knowing that charity begins at home, in our little corners of work, let us portray goodwill, so that by whatever time, anytime when we find ourselves in positions of leadership, perhaps the president of the country and whatsoever, we would be able to understand how the African, to understand how leadership is to be. Let the African youth not let us be dynamic in our thoughts. Let us observe leadership not just in Africa, but in Europe and the America. Observe how they are progressing, and learn to copy good examples. Because our leaders today, what baffles me with African leaders today is that when they are sick, they go to Europe and the America, and all everything they do go to Europe and America, but they never learn to they never tend to ask themselves this question, that what's happening in Europe and America, that they are growing like this. So African youth should also begin to ask questions. Let us liberate our mind. Let us not be so static in our thoughts, but be dynamic. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Ahmed, that have been very, very great, and I'm minded to bring you back to the point where you said the African youth need to begin to participate. And there's a question that was asked by one of our viewers, Amos Adiku. He said, how do young people get a clean slate when party nomination forms for political offices? How do the youth raise such money, such outrageous amounts of money? Let me explain this a little bit. I don't know how it is in Cameroon, but in Nigeria, to become a president, I think you need to pay 50 million naira to buy just the form, or is it 25 million? I don't know for sure. To become a governor, 10 million. I think a member of the House of Federal House, some 2 point something million. Someone who is going to the State House of Assembly, about 500,000 a million or something like that. And these are money that is not available to the young people. And do you have any thoughts how young people can get away from, this kind of stumbling block of having to raise so huge amount of money in order to participate in politics? Is there any idea you have of what they can do that can help them?
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Now, the aspect of raising such huge amounts of money for Afro youths to partake in positions of leadership, be it at the legislative or the Senate, is something which I personally do not support. In Nigeria, the Federal Republic of Nigeria is not different from the Republic of Cameroon here. To go into president, I think you need to get the 30 million for the form or whatsoever. Yeah, I do not support it. So this is what I instead suggest the youth do. Youth need to support each other to be able to get into positions where we'll need to stop this. Yeah. And also the youth need to desist from the mindset of corruption, and to get into these positions of leadership, we would need to pay such an amount of money. That's true. Yes. But if African youth can come together, work for the benefit of Africa, knowing that the cause is for a common interest and not for partisan interest, then we will be able to raise such an amount of money. But the question with Africa is that unity, that aspect of trust is lacking. Yeah, and that alone is frustrating Africans from progressing, because a lot of questions will be asked. Even with these economic blocks, there's no unity there. Here in CEMAC, the CEMAC region, that's the Central African economic stuff like that. The Equatorial Guineans and the Cameroonians, last time they were even tried, because the unity in Africa is not working. It's not different from tribalism and all the stuff. So there'll be a lot of questions. Yeah. So we need to realize that we are having the aspect of Pan-Africanism, which says that all people of the African continent and the Africans in diaspora have a common heritage and a common destiny. No, we have to realize that we have a common problem, and we must come together to see to it that we can alleviate one move from this problem.
Okay, thank you very much, dear Ahmed. There are something that you said which will help us very much here. That point that you made is, you said the African youth need to unite to be able to do this, to be able to raise that kind of money. But my thought is that kind of money itself is corruption. If a man brings that kind of money to buy a mayor form, how much money is he going to use for campaign? And then if he now have to spend so much money to campaign and before he wins or she wins, then how he going to office will be to recover the money. So in my mind, that is like corruption. Um, uh, Amos, who asked the question that we are responding to in our last broadcast, said that he said that, hey, the only way that, in fact, it is wrong for the African youth to think about joining the political parties where these old people are. He wants the African youth to remember that they are already 60% of the population of each of these countries, which means they can always win elections landslide. All they need is what you said in passing as we are closing now. If the young people are united, if they have unity, they can form their own political parties, and then so that to be nominated, you don't need to clear your stomach of every liquid inside it to get the money you need to be able to
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, but you looking at, I don't know how things are done in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I'll use the Republic of Cameroon as an example. Looking at Cameroon, to be able to create a political party is one thing. Yeah. To also be able to have a seat, is it in Senate or in at the legislative, that's the Parliament House, is another thing. Yeah. So what I'm suggesting, if you listen keenly to what I said, is this, that I do not support that money should be paid for leadership.
That is
Yeah,
the
I
problem.
do not support it. Yeah, but the aspect of it is that how do we as youths get there? Now, I said, how do we as youths get there in positions, in these positions? We must stand for one another and ensure that somebody gets there to speak for the youth. Because as it is, these guys do not care about us. They have encouraged poverty in Africa so that they know that we Africans, we are poor. We cannot provide for ourselves. And what then do? We need to demand. And this is a whole system which has been set by the Europe and the Americans, so that when you are poor and you have the skills of leadership and you are interested in politics, they will come and sponsor you, and you have to do what they want, not what you intend to do as a leader of your country. And that's what we have here. So that I do not support it. Yeah, I do not support it. It's like you are trading your conscience for power. And it's not even like it is. Yeah, that's what we have here. Yeah. So the only thing which African youths can do, right, is for them to come together, stand together, support each other, knowing that somebody is going there to make the voice of the Africans heard.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I appreciate every bit of your comment. They have been very, very reasonable. They are on point. And one of our people who is in the studio, behind the studio, waiting for his chance, made a comment that said, Ahmed, thank you for the points you have made. They are great. And we appreciate your being at this conference today. And thank you very much for these contributions you have made. Please stay tuned to the conference. Invite your friends to the conference. In due course, we will cut out your side of this conference and send it to you, and you can share it more to excite other rising generations in your country or in your contact list to be able to participate in what we are doing, which is to raise consciousness in the rising generation through this African Youth Conference on the theme, the African Leadership Question, Problems and Prospects. Thank you very much, Ahmed. We appreciate your coming. Okay, viewers, we are moving on with this conference. We are still seeing many of you here, which excites us. We have been getting the likes and love growing. We want you to keep the like and love growing. Anyone that comes to this conference, we invite you to do 3 things. Number 1, like, love this conference session. Then make a comment or ask questions, or both anyway, so that those who are speaking to us at the conference today, we have a chance to provide you with answers to those questions and share their own thoughts on the comments you have made. We appreciate every bit of your commitment and contribution to the ongoing conference. Now, before we invite our next speaker, who is Kelechi Ochulo from Nigeria, would like to share with you the a message from the organizers of this conference, which is the African Town Hall online television. Join us.
Hello everyone. You are all welcome to the Africa Youth Conference. We would be discussing about the African leadership question, problems and prospects.
Can we hear the statement of the problem?
The African continent and the African people are currently in the deepest part of a quagmire from the effects of colonialism, continual exploitation, intentional degradation, corruption, ineptitude, nepotism and a blinding brainless ruling class. As a young man myself, I am 64 years of age now. People who promised my generation, the youth back then, that we are the leaders of tomorrow are still ruling in Africa and producing nothing but ruination for the greatest continent made by God on this earth.
The rising generation/youth of Africa, having been beguiled by the text of being the leaders of tomorrow, never learned that tomorrow never comes.
The dominant feeling is that we do not have leaders in Africa. The kindest ways to refer to those who are sitting over the fortunes of Africa are as rulers. Personally, I see those in power in Africa at present, with the exception of Mr. Paul Kagame of Rwanda, as agents of ruin bent on destroying the continent, with the connivance of foreign business and political interests, through the suppression of the youth and all voices of dissent.
From Uganda to Cote d'Ivoire, to Nigeria to Cameroon, with Nigeria being the worst case scenario, we have deadwoods and old men in their 80s and 90s ruling as presidents and senators. Some of these people started ruling from the age of 28 years of age and are now in their 90s and still ruining the continent.
Being totally disconnected to the needs of the future of the continent, represented by the young people of Africa, they have ensured that the educational system is either faulty or does not work at all, with universities opening for only a quarter of the time they are supposed to be open each year.
African rulers, like witches, are happy to kill their young ones. In Nigeria, the Nigeria police force and the military delight in unlawful and extrajudicial killing of their young ones, under guises that does not in any way warrant the use of water cannon for dispersing the people. The #EndSARS protest in Nigeria was murderously quelled by live bullets, reportedly killing over 70 youths.
Our program?
We, at the African Town Hall online television, believe that the problem of Africa is leadership. In line with our main objective of helping the rising generations of Africa to speak out, and let their voice be heard, with a view to changing the current detrimental narrative, we have created the African leadership question, problems and prospects.
Wonderful. This program, the African leadership question, problems and prospects, is set up to bring the rising generations together to seek to understand the problem of leadership in Africa and to consider the prospects for the desired change. With us in the studio to discuss this topic are rising generations persons from all over Africa. In this month, December 2020, we would assemble every Wednesday, first at 11 a.m. in the morning and then at 9 p.m. Nigerian time to discuss this issue. It is hoped that before the end of December 2020, more than 100 African youth have been able to share their opinion on this matter. At the end, we would articulate a communiqué that would be read on the last day of our meeting. We invite all African youth to come and participate, both from our studios and from comments on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter, to provide direction for the African youth both in the continent and in the diaspora, a way forward for the renaissance of the African continent.
So, join us. And stay tuned, and keep participating.
Thank you very much, everyone. And it will now be my pleasure to invite Kelechi Ochulo to address the conference. Hey, Kelechi, welcome to the conference.
Hello. Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yes, very well.
Awesome. Okay. Well, first and foremost, I want to say thank you for putting together this kind of conference and this kind of like avenue for all of us to come and share like all of these ideas. Growing up, I always kind of wanted an environment of other like-minded individuals and you who were passionate about like improving their lives, but not only that, passionate about improving like their countries, especially Nigeria as a whole. I also want to give thanks to all the guys who've gone before me, George and Ahmed. Those guys were orators. You know, I'm not an orator myself, but I'm going to do my best. as we talk about some of these issues that Nigeria needs to tackle. Um, to start, when I was little, everyone who knew me, if you knew me, you knew that my goal was to someday become president of Nigeria, right? I mean, this is something that I talked about. I did not shy away from sharing this with people. You know, if you met me, it's probably one of the first things I was going to tell you is like, hey, I'm going to be president someday. As I got older, though, I realized that there's people that the president answers to. The president isn't really in control. The leader isn't really in control. And as we've talked today, some people have brought up some of those things like this issue of godfatherism. Um, the president actually answers to other people. And a lot of these people are the people who helped him get in power or who, you know, provided money to fund the campaign. And that was when I decided that, you know what, instead of becoming president, I'd much rather become one of those people who told the president what to do, you know? Because the way I look at it, I could be a good person, but if the people who are telling me what to do, if the people who I have to answer to are evil, then I have no choice but to do evil things. But if I'm a good person, as long as I remain good, the people who answer to me and the people who have no choice but to do what I do are always gonna do good things. Okay, so it's my goal over the next few minutes that I'll share some of these my ideas that I can help convince you guys that the solution to a lot of Africa's problems, as far as like from a leadership standpoint, lie in each one of us developing ourselves and personally becoming people of wealth in our lives and in our, you know, individual communities. Okay. Can you guys still hear me okay? I'm going to assume everyone can. All right. So moving on, leadership, the idea of leadership. Judge said something that I thought was pretty cool. So I'm just going to borrow his definition. Leadership is the ability to have like a vision, to have a desired outcome, and to be able to guide oneself and one's people over to that desired outcome. That's what it means to lead. Um, One of my business mentors, one of the people I look up to in business, he's famous for saying people don't have problems in their business. People have problems in their lives that show up in their business. And I honestly think it's the same when it comes to African countries. I don't think we have leadership. Well, I don't think we have leadership problems per se, but we have there's personal problems in the leaders. If you guys are getting what I'm trying to say, that it just comes out as they try to lead the country. The point I'm trying to make is Africa's problem per se is not necessarily corrupt leaders. My dad, Francis, one of his favorite things to say is corruption is not an Igbo word. Okay, that's our tribe. That's the dialect that we speak, Igbo. And his favorite thing to say is corruption is not an Igbo word. What was he trying to tell me? That even in the Western world, even in countries in the United States, in the UK, in Europe, there are corrupt leaders. You know, corruption is an English word, so obviously it stems from an English-speaking place, and that's true. The only difference, however, though, is because our leaders are poverty-stricken. Okay, and this is not just poverty in the terms of cash. It's not just poverty in the terms of bank balances. However, it's poverty of ideas and poverty of morals. Okay, and the reason I feel like that is the problem with our leadership is because assuming it was an issue of corruption, for example, in the Western world where you have corruption, a leader could be corrupt. He's only gonna steal like 20% of the funds, but 80% of it is gonna go to, you know, whatever the project was supposed to do. However, in most African countries, for example, Nigeria to be specific, we have leaders who will take 100%, and dare I say maybe 150%. Why? Because they would take 100% of the budget, whatever it was supposed to be used for that month, put in their pocket, request for some more, and when it comes, what do? They still put it in their pocket. Okay, so that's not corruption. That's poverty, and that's it's kind of led to a vicious cycle. Vicious cycle in the sense that people now look at power as when it's my turn, I'm going to try and set myself and my family for life. Okay. No one's in power. The people we have in power, They're not really trying to make things better. They're not really trying to change our lives. They're not really trying to change our situations. They're literally just trying to put money in their pocket and to make sure their kids are set for the rest of their life. You know, I mean, wasn't it CARG like the other time that the EFCC raided his house? I think they found about 1 trillion, 1 trillion naira in cash, just chilling in the living room. You know, I mean, what are you doing with that much money? You know, it's I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine what that looks like. But that was the amount that he had in cash, just laying around in his house. You know, and that makes you wonder. Okay, if that was what he had laying around in cash in his house, I wonder what he had in offshore accounts. What did he have in accounts in Swiss? What did he have in offshore investments? You know, the point I'm trying to make is Africa's problem is the people who are in leadership, they're poor, poverty stricken, poverty of ideas, and poverty of morals. Okay. Someone else mentioned today that a lot of the problem when it comes to like people in power is this idea of godfatherism. And I think it's true. A lot of the people who get to power, a lot of how like kind of like that selection process of who gets to run in the next election, whoever is in power right now, and then they're kind of it goes like a chain of command, all the people that he's cool with. And usually how do they become cool with the person in power? It's just kind of like by doing whatever he says, by becoming an errand boy and just being a yes man to the person in power. You know, like whatever they say, you say, oh yeah, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And by so doing, they try to like buy favor in the eyes of whoever is in power right now, so that like when the person is leaving, the person can give them a nudge or a nod to be like the next in line. Um, any man who has a lot going for themselves, any man who can stand on their own 2 feet, I can tell you this, is not interested in being a yes man or running errands for another man. Okay, and that kind of leads me to the next point about this, which is what can we do about it? Um, I think the solution to a lot of Nigeria and Africa as a whole problem when it comes to leadership is everyone taking extreme ownership. I think it lies in a wave of personal development. I think in all of it lies in all of us becoming ambitious. Um, I'm kind of a little bit all over the place right now, but I have some ideas that I'm going to share, and I feel like with these ideas, we can take them and put them into action, and it will get us well on our way to becoming the people who can lead in the future. All right. First and foremost, we all need to be able to stand on our own. We all need to be able to stand on our own 2 feet. Okay. But besides that, the next point that I want to make is that no one can change the world for you. We all need to understand that we can't wait on someone else. We can't wait on our leaders, because if we want to wait on our leaders to change our world for us, we're going to be waiting forever. That's just the fact of the matter. These people have no interest in helping us out. We are the only ones who can. We are the only ones who can do that for ourselves. Okay, and so that's the idea of taking extreme ownership. That we're the only ones who can change our world. Okay, the next idea is that for you to change the world, you have to change your world first. Does that make sense? For you to be able to change the world, you have to change your own world first. Okay. A lot of the people we find in power, and a lot that's kind of like their problem. Uh, they're struggling. They're struggling. They can't stand on their own 2 feet. They can't stand or rely on their own ideas, and that's why when they end up in power, they decide like the solution is just to steal and steal and steal as much as they can, because they don't know when they're ever going to be able to come across like that much money or resources ever again. Do you see the problem? However, if they were people who were already grounded by themselves, who already had their own like legit businesses and legit investments, and who could stand on their own 2 feet, they would literally have no need for the country's resources, and they will be able to actually like deploy them into places where like they are needed. Okay. So the point I'm trying to make here is that we need to be able to change our worlds. We need to be able to change our lives before we can change the world around us. Okay. Um, Now that brings me to the next point. How do we now go about this? How do we go about changing our world? All right. So for this part, I have three ideas. 3 ideas that I want to share. All right, let me see 1 second. 3 ideas that I want to share as far as like how we can go about changing our worlds. Okay, the first, who do you know right now is the life that you want to live? Who in your local network, who in your circle of influence, who can you think of right now that is already living the dream life that you would like to live? How can you get around them? What can you do to be of service or of value to them? So after you've identified them, after you've gotten around them, not asking for handouts, but like providing value to them, the next thing you do is figure out from them, what did you do to get to your position right now, and what can I do from where I am right now to get to where you are right now? Does that make sense? The best way I found to get anything in life is to go to who already has it and ask them to tell you. I mean, you might have to sometimes you might have to pay them, or might have to do 1 or 2 things for them. That's legit, of course, but ask them to tell you what it was that they did to get to that position. Okay, that actually saves you a lot of time from trial and error. It saves you a lot of time from making mistakes yourself. That way you can learn from the mistakes of others. So that's the first pillar. Figure out who has the kind of life that you want to live. How do you get around them? How can you become like them? The next step is take everything that they've told you, take all the major pillars that they've told you, and divide your year or the next couple years into 90-day increments. And then in each of those 90 days, focus on 1 or 2 of those things. All right. It's amazing how like beginning of the year, everyone has like really nice ideas about what they want to achieve that year. Everyone has like really nice goals. Everyone has like New Year's resolution. But what have we all noticed? By the time you get to February or March, everyone kind of like tends to forget. Like not a lot of people are actually like pushing forward with their New Year's resolutions. So that's why I'm talking about like 90-day increments. Don't think about the whole year at once. Don't think about the whole 365 days or months at once. Think about it in 90 days, 90 days at a time. All right. So you take 1 or 2 pillars of whatever it was that person told you. You take whatever it was that they told you, and then you pick a certain 90-day block and you focus on 1 or 2 of those things for that 90 days. Okay. The next pillar I want to talk about is environment. All right. Now we need to create an environment that kind of like allows us to focus on those things. All right. What do I mean by environment? The books that we read, the kind of motivation that we listen to, the kind of people that we let come around us, the kind of people that we go to hang around. Are these people that have similar goals? One of my favorite quotes is this idea that we're products of our environment. And then I add my own little spin to it. I'm sure everyone has heard that quote that we are products of our environment. My own little spin that I add to it is, if I'm a product of my environment, then I can get around an environment where people are already doing the things that I aspire to do. All right. It's kind of like the saying that says that you are the average of the 5 people that you hang around the most, right? So if I'm right here and I want to be here, and I know that I'm the average of the 5 people I hang around the most, I'm going to try and find a way to find 4 or 5 people who are already up here and try and hang around them, so that by becoming an average, I can already be on that level. Does that make sense? The whole point of what I'm trying to make is that by personally developing ourselves, we can get to a point where like we've changed our worlds personally. After we do that, we can now like take a lot of our surplus and we can now start investing in our communities. Okay. Instead of waiting, I'm one person who I don't believe in waiting for government or leaders to do anything. Okay. If I feel like there's something that needs to be done in our community, I'll look at it myself and be like, okay, how do I become the person that is capable of doing this? All right. So what I'm trying to preach is all of us develop ourselves, develop our minds, develop our bank accounts, develop our lives, and eventually get to a point where we can start to give back in our community. Okay. Imagine you be the type of person where just in the neighborhood that you grew up or in the village that you're living in, maybe there's like a road that needs to be built. Maybe there's like a park that needs to be renovated. Okay. Or maybe the kids need a library where they need to go study after school. And imagine you've gotten yourself to the point where it's like, I can actually donate to building this library, or I can actually build that library myself. The interesting thing is, after doing enough of these projects for your community, people actually, I feel, would start to reach out to you to be like, hey, why don't you come do this on a bigger scale? Why don't you come do this on a state level? Why don't you take it to the next level? You know what I mean? They're actually going to start to reach out to you to come for positions of power. It's like they have that saying that fine boys like us, not them, they rush us. It's kind of like that. So like when you become a wealthy person, when you become a person that can stand on their own 2 feet themselves, people will actually start reaching out to you to come and hold positions of power. And that's the interesting thing. When someone else is reaching out, when you're the one going and asking someone to do something, you have to do it on their terms. You have to do it on their time. But when people are coming to reach out to you, they have to do it on your terms. They have to do it on your time. And when you get to that point, then when we get to that point, we can now start to be like, if I'm actually going to come and run, this is kind of what I expect. We can now lay out the terms of how we want our leadership to be. Okay. So to sum up everything that I'm trying to say, I'm just going to summarize real quick, and then we can head into some questions if any are available. Africa's problem is we have a lot of morally bankrupt people. We have a lot of poor, poverty-stricken leaders, and they get in power and they decide this is the opportunity to siphon everything. I think the solution lies in each one of us realizing that these leaders are not going to solve the problem for us. We all have to rise up in our own little ways and try and solve these problems for ourselves. We all have to take responsibility and figure out what it is that we can do in our lives to change our lives, so that by the time we have changed our lives, we can get to a position where we start to change the lives of others around us. And I know that by so doing, a lot more good can be done in the society, and a lot more good things will follow. All right, so that's pretty much what I had to say on the topic.
Okay, that is awesome. That is an awesome contribution, and it is highly appreciated. This is the kind of voice we want to hear from the rising generations of Africa. A voice of direction, a voice of confidence, a voice of hope. And this is one of the reasons we set up this African Youth Conference, the theme of leadership question, problems and prospects. And you have very succinctly addressed all the problems, a lot of the problems, and a lot of solutions. There's an angle that interests me so much, and that is the angle of what each person must do in these matters. The fact that it begins with me. It's not a them thing. It is me. It starts with whoever has found out the need that is in the continent at the present. Okay, so thank you very much for those strong words. That's what we're looking for in this conference. You have a comment here. Ngobi Samson Chinedu, he said, hey, don't worry, you can still be president.
Yes, sir. You will be my running mate.
I'm sure he remembers in those days we used to hear Kelechi for president, Kelechi for
That's
president.
Right.
So I think nothing is going to stop it. And the process you have outlined, where you see problems, you begin to solve them, people will, at that point, they themselves come forward and say, hey, we see that you have the idea, come help us. I think it's in the scriptures where they said, my brother, at least you have clothes on your body, at least you know something, come and help us. And you have to be different. Before, I think Samson too says that you are totally right with the contributions you have, the point you have marshaled. Okay, I have you cover these questions effectively, but I need an angle in some of the questions. If a young man or woman approaches you right now and say, hey, mentor me, help me find my way through making a contribution to life, which will now relate to the suggestions you made there, first begin to contribute and people will know that you have something to give. So if If a young person, a man, a woman approaches you for that, how will you begin your counseling for them?
Okay. Well, I can think of three ways. Okay, and a lot of things is kind of nice when you break it down into three because it's easy to remember that way. But if a young man approached me right now and said, "Okay, how do I begin this process?" I can think of three things. The first thing to do is obviously you need to get something that gets you income. Okay, something that produces you income. This could either be a skill, this could either be through a career, could actually also be through a business or a mixture of both your career and both your skill. Okay, so you figure out what it is that brings you income. Secondly, you try and spend way less. Try and spend way less than what you make, right? And then thirdly, you park a lot of those you park a lot of the not right now, buddy, not right now. You park a lot of the excess in investments that produce cash for you. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I would start with the first one and say, okay, um, speaking of skills or a career, are there any that interest you right now? Are there any that you can already do right now? If there's none, I think the issue we could then talk about. All right, so which one can you go and start to learn right now that preferably within like 12 to 18 months you could start making money from it? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
What kind of skill, what kind of education can you get right now that preferably in the next 12 to 18 months you can start to make some kind of money from it? If they already have one, then the next thing we will talk about will be how can we start, what can we do right now for you to help make sure that you are living way below your means? All right. And if it turns out that they already have that or they're already doing that and they have some excess, then the next thing to talk about will be, okay, what are some investments? What are some cash producing assets that we can acquire so that your money is working for you? And so that way that way with time, you're simply getting wealthier and wealthier. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Okay, thank you. And we have this comment and question coming from Vandi Betua. Vandi Betua, I think, lives in Sierra Leone, West Africa. He says, impressive. But if we are the product of our environment, when this environment is proven to not be our place, how can we contend this irony? If we are the product of our environment, and then this environment is said not to be our place, how can we contend this irony?
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now. I think Vandy a very, very good point. What I'd like to add, though, however, is environment, I think, is more than just our physical surroundings. Okay. If we were to remember when I was talking, I said some of the things that go into environment, the books that I read, the kind of motivation that I take into in the morning, and the kind of people that I surround myself with. Okay. This town hall meeting is one. This is a good example because, like, this is an environment of upward-looking youth who are interested and who are curious and passionate about making a difference in their life, but also in their respective countries and our continent, Africa as a whole. Okay, so I think it just takes all of us being creative to be, how can I get around like-minded individuals who are wanting to do similar great things? Because by getting around such people, we can all push each other. We can all push ourselves. You know, their successes would encourage me, and my success would encourage them as well. Another good way to do it is also through Facebook groups. Okay, even if like maybe no one in your neighborhood is operating or thinking about the same things as you think, or is passionate about some of the things that you're passionate about, you can join groups on Facebook, for example, again, like this one, where there are people who are already thinking about these things and taking action towards like achieving some of these things. Okay, because of the internet and because of technology, our environment is no longer what we see and touch. Our environment is now global. Okay, and I think that's kind of how I answer that question. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that is very very effective way to respond to the question, because one thing that must be done, each person must do, from my own understanding, is that wherever you are, you should not be pinned down to that place unless it is producing the results that you want. We can change where we are, who we are, and what we are doing. And that's
Exactly.
what I think I learned from what you said, that we can change who we are, where we are, and what we are doing. And now you do not need to get away from, let's say you live in a place like Abuja or Cameroon, or Sierra Leone.
Yeah.
You do not need to leave that place because of the power of technology. You can be right where you are, paying limited costs, and still become a global citizen and have the influence of an expanded environment, not just the little one where you are born or where you sit or sleep or go to school and so on. That's what I took away from what you said, and I mean, those are quite marvelous for me. Okay, so right now, actually, if you have a final word for either the governments of Africa, the rising generations of Africa, or both.
Well, I don't think I would say anything to the government. You know, I think one of my favorite things that I learned from you growing up is, if someone's misbehaving, just don't pay them any mind, right? And I feel like right now, like the government of Africa, well, except for like President Kagame and Rwanda, like we all mentioned before, for the most part, they're misbehaving. So I wouldn't even say anything to them. But to the youth, I think my parting words would be, you have to change your life before you can change the world, you know, and a lot can be done in 6 months to a year of like focus. If you're focused on one thing, you can actually make a lot of improvements. 6 years, in 6 months to 12 months, you can make a lot of improvements if you maintain that focus. So I think that would be my parting words.
Thank you very much. It has been a plump and pleasing pleasure to have you in this conference. Your words have been very wise. They have influenced even my thoughts and thinking right now. They are giving me a new direction for this conference and the rest of the things that I have in my mind to do to sustain the momentum we are building and the expectations that we have for this conference. So do have a good day. And thank you very much for making your time to be with us here. Thank you. I appreciate it every bit.
Thank you. I'll talk later.
You're welcome. Okay, viewers, we are so very grateful that you have hung on with us. It's going into the third hour. The second hour is almost complete, and I'm sure this is happening because this live broadcast of the conference is becoming way exciting, and every bit of it is highly appreciated. You are still viewing the African Youth Conference dealing with the theme, the African leadership question. Before we bring on our next speaker, who is Samson C. Ngobi from Nigeria, I would like to share some information from both our sponsors and our sponsors, and then those who have helped us contact for and the organizers of this program. Thank you very much. It will now be my pleasure to bring forward to this conference our third speaker. That's our fourth speaker for today. As things get exciting, you add more to it. Our fourth speaker today, Mr. Samson Chinedu Ngobi from Nigeria. Welcome to the conference, my dear friend.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I am excited to be here.
Okay, you have the floor now. Please address Africa.
All right. So first of all, I want to say a big thank you to you for what you're doing to organize us and help us identify these problems and find ways to solve these problems. And also, I want to say a big thank you to the guys who have spoken before, from the first to the last person that just spoke. It's been awesome. It's been very educative. And I am glad I can add my voice to theirs. I may not say something or a lot of things that may be different from what they've said, but I deem it a pleasure to be here again. And growing up, one of the people that I grew up to see as a leader is my father. My father, I grew up to see my father leading, and he's still leading up to today. And one thing I noticed was something he had, a poem. I do music, and I am kind of drawn to the poetry part of life, and it helps me to learn. So in my speech, I'm going to read out a few things from a poem that I inherited from my father, called "Be a Leader, Not a Boss." Many of us may have heard about this poem, and it's going to help me kind of identify a few problems that I think if we are able to solve in Nigeria as a country and in Africa as a whole, things may get better. So identifying problems is key, because one thing that can hinder progress is not knowing that we have problems. So if we're able to identify our problems, we can make headway because we can find solution to those problems. All right. So personally, one of the problems I identified was not having the ability or the desire to read. And that was what brought me to this forum. I had big problems reading. And when I saw the forum and knew that I could get books to read, it helped me a lot to improve myself as a songwriter and as a person as well. And I'm not yet consistent in doing this, but consistency is key, because that's one of the things I've learned in one of the books that I started reading recently. So I'm going to take the first part of the poem that says, "A boss knows everything." So people who we have today that refer to themselves as leaders are, in my opinion, bosses and rulers, just like other people have described them. They are rulers and bosses, and they think they know everything. And that is the reason why they find it difficult to give young people the opportunity to contribute to government, because they would ask you, what do you know? They think you know nothing about politics, you know nothing about governance. Not knowing that leadership in all its ramifications has nothing to do with age. I have people who are quite old, who may be older than the current leaders we have in Nigeria today, but they are doing awesomely well. And I also know of young people who are doing marvelously well in all they do. All right. And so leaders don't think this way. Leaders admit mistakes and want to make corrections. But in Nigeria today, when things go wrong, nobody agrees to be at fault. Everybody is right. And when we think we're right, it becomes very difficult to make changes. And this goes ahead to affect everything else we do as leaders, in quote. The second point I'd like to make is that bosses tell people what to do. They tell people what to do. They don't show you how to do those things. All right. So the kind of leaders or the kind of people we have in power today in my country, Nigeria, and across Africa are the kind of people who give instructions. They tell you what to do. They don't show you how to do it. Growing up, I've come to know that when you tell people what to do without showing them how it is done, they do it the way they know best to do it. So in this case, they don't really owe you any apologies when they make mistakes. But when you show them how to do it and they do it, oh, am I muted?
No,
Can
no,
you hear
you
me?
are good. You are good. You are good. Very loud
Okay.
and clear. Beautiful comments you are
Okay.
making.
All right, thank you. So when you show people how to do things, then they become answerable to you. They will be able to give a report at the end of the day. But when you tell them and you go back and sit back and watch from a distance, they do what they think they can do, which is right. And they owe you no apologies at the end of the day. So we should start to think about leaders who can show, who know what to do, because it's one thing to know how to do something before you be able to show people how to do it. So we should get leaders who know how to do these things and show other people how to do them. By saying this, I am not saying we should have godfathers, because that's one big problem we have. All right. We should have mentors, just like what you're doing right here. You have been a mentor since I came to know you, starting from the time you were doing relationship talks. One of your books that I read actually helped me to grow relationship wise. All right. It helped me a lot in my love life. I'm a testimony to that. So
Well,
we
I think
should.
you're going to talk about that with us one day. Will you do that?
Yes,
Tell us
I
how the
will.
book helped you.
I will.
Okay.
I'll be very glad to do that. So we should find leaders who know what to do, who can mentor in the right way, not the ones that will lead us astray, because that's what we have right now, people who are leading us the wrong way. And because of godfatherism, everybody who is good, who gets into power or who gets into the system, becomes just like them, because that there is just a little that you can do to change what is, to change the status quo. All right. So we should look for leaders who can show us how to do things. And when they tell us how to do things, we can now answer back at the end of our jobs by giving reports and receive the appreciation that is necessary for such. Because when you tell someone how to do something, the person does it and reports back. You must give compliments to encourage them to do more in the future. But that's not what we have in the kind of leaders we have today in Africa. Another one says, a boss criticizes, but a leader gives advice. So we have bosses, we have rulers who will criticize you, even though they don't know what they're doing, even though they don't know how to do the things you're supposed to do. But when you make mistakes, they criticize you. But that's not how leaders react. Leaders call you and advise you and tell you the right way to do it the next time, so you can bring the desired result. The next point says, a boss gives orders. This ties to the second one. They just give orders. But a leader gives direction. A leader gives direction. For me, leadership is the act of helping a group of people who have similar ideas, who have a defined goal to get to their destination. Not minding the challenges that may come. Being a leader gives you that ability to help them, encourage them, give them direction, and take them to the desired destination. But we don't have such leaders. We have people who give orders, who order the military to go kill people, who want you to keep quiet and don't say anything about the things that are going on in government, who don't want you to protest. They order you to keep quiet. That's the kind of people we have in power. But that is not what we need as leaders. So I'm talking from the perception of we who are youths who would like to get into power, to know what we need, to equip ourselves to become leaders and not rulers or bosses, as the case may be. All right. So the next one says, a boss demands respect, but a leader earns it. Respect is not demanded; it's actually earned, through your service. I used to tell friends when we talk politics that if our leaders do what is right, if our leaders give us the basics of life, if our leaders can lead us the right way, they don't need to campaign. They don't need to be in a political party. Okay, they need to be in a political party to qualify to be leaders, but they don't really need a godfather to tell them what to do to win elections. No, they don't. The people will see the good works and put them back in power if necessary. So they shouldn't be expecting us to respect them, to call them the leaders, which they think we should call them when they are rulers. No, you have to show us that you're a leader through your actions before we can actually make this happen in real life. And that takes me to the next point that says a boss rules with threats, not law. And that's what we get. That's exactly what's happening in Nigeria right now. Threats against the youths, threats against anybody who wants to speak out, and it is not good at all. That is not what we need. If we keep going through this path, I tell you, we'll keep going backwards instead of going forward. The first point I made was leaders not knowing everything, accepting when they make mistakes. No. But what we have in the country, Nigeria and Africa, is when people make mistakes, when people steal our money and you talk, they threaten you. If you're not careful, you lose your life. A lot of people have lost their lives in the struggle, and that is because of the kind of people we have bossing us around and ruling us and not leading us. So leadership is quite important. We need leaders and not bosses. A leader shows human kindness. A leader comes to talk to their people when it's time. We have rulers who, during campaigns, can go to every part of the country possible to make promises that will never be fulfilled. But when they start making mistakes, they will never come out to talk to their people. They become kings and sit in their palaces and create rules and create problems for the people in the grassroots. And that's a huge problem. Now, a boss depends on hearsay. Bosses also depend on hearsay. They never investigate. This is very clear in the last problems in the last problem we had in Nigeria during the NSAS protest. People were killed, and it took a long time to hear from the leaders. They tell us they are investigating, but we had to rely on videos coming from protesters and even from CCTV cameras to ascertain what really happened, even though they denied from the beginning every aspect of it. So it's a huge problem that we have in the country. But I think as we prepare as youths, because I believe it's time for us to stand up and take the country back and take Africa back. If we are going to do this, we must have this rethink in our own small places that we lead, because we are all supposed to be leaders in our little places. As a musician, I do everything on my own right now because I'm still operating at a very small scale. But I'm a leader in my own little space. I have a family, I'm a leader in my family. So we are leaders in one aspect or the other. So we should ask ourselves, are we really leading, or are we bosses in disguise? I think that's how far I would like to go with my speech today. I hope we have other opportunities to broaden this topic because it's really important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is awesome, my dear friend Samson. This is very powerful, and I think this is at the core of the issues that brought us to this conference. We need to X-ray all the problems, As we x-ray them, it will lead us to seek for the solution. And you have been able to provide very effectively from the two parts, from the two angles, the problems and the prospects. Okay. Now, but this one is coming from my person.
Okay.
In Africa, the old people who have access and kept power or seized power and are keeping it by all means, they seem united. But the young people who need to cause the change, who need to influence the change, are not united. Are there any thoughts you have that can help the young people come together? Maybe one knowledge that needs to be passed is the fact that in Nigeria, and this have been found out in other African countries, the politically, those who are politically called youth, which is up to 45 years of age, and even if you remove them and just simply put those who are rising generations, which is 12 to 30, they are known in the population figures, in the statistics, to be close to 60% of the population. Okay, so it means a few people, fewer than 40%, are united against 60%. What is there any counsel or ways you have for these 60% that can help them wake up from their sleep and begin the journey to change the scenario?
Great. That's a wonderful question there. I think the leading class, or the ruling class, the politicians have found several ways to divide us. They found several means to keep dividing the young people, keep dividing those who want a better Africa, a better country, Nigeria, through the different means. But one of the means they do this is by making sure that education doesn't work in Africa. Because it's only when people are educated, they know their rights, and they can fight for it. But when you're not educated, you don't know your right, you can never fight for it. So that's one aspect that they have succeeded, that they've used to divide the young people. And this is why self-development is very, very important. We have it in us, be it leadership, be it the skills we need to grow, to become great people. They are all embedded in us. But the ruling class have made the environment so unconducive that sometimes we don't even see the potentials that we have. So I think young people should begin to look within and begin to try to develop themselves as much as possible, right? As much as they can. Reading books, like you've always advised me to do, trying to do everything to educate yourself. Self-education is the only thing that I see in Africa that can push us ahead. Because if you rely on the schools, you're just going to be the same. All right, the schools don't offer us anything. You don't learn anything from the schools. I remember a very sad experience. I was privileged to go to India for a training, and during my training, I was able to produce something very tangible. After a few months, probably 2 months, I produced a power pack that can power a medical equipment. Now, when I came back, I saw my junior brother who have spent a lot of time in the university or in the polytechnic in Nigeria produce an amplifier, and he was happy. And I began to check. 2 weeks, I was able to make a power pack. After 3 or 4 years, he was able to make an amplifier, and he's happy. And that's what they do to us. You know, when you are able to achieve a little, you think that's all you have. But I know that youths, young people in Africa, has got what it takes to push forward, to become better. They've also used hunger. They've also used hunger and poverty to manipulate us, so that when it's time for them to go about their negative intentions, they can bring peanuts. to us to entice us and buy us over. But we should start saying no to these things. Because if you, because of 5,000 naira or even 1,000 naira in some cases, if you, because of this little amount of money, sell out the country for 4 years, the suffering cannot be, it's not justifiable. It's not justifiable. So we should begin to ask ourselves questions. What are these people doing to divide us, and find ways to stop these kind of things?
Thank you. That is so succinct and so powerfully put. Um, this conference is midwifing in me a new knowledge, a new understanding of the fact that there's power lying within the rising generations of Africa, which these rulers, I think they are conscious of it and they want to make sure it doesn't come out. Uh, Today's conference, our previous sessions have been very wonderful. Today is an explosion. As in fact, it's so explosive to me, the kind of thoughts and ideas that are coming out. And so I kind of feel so happy that bringing the rising generations together to speak is a justified action that should cost us everything in this world just to bring this kind of people together to speak. Your words have been so wise, so powerful, so inspiring. And we're going to
Thank
do
you so much.
everything we can to make sure that these words do not stay here. These words will become viral. We're going to put them in different ways and tweak them around and then put them out there and get Africa, especially the rising generation, talking. We have viewers, we see that many of you are still popping up, even though the conference have been at lasted quite a long time this evening. We are so very grateful. But we want to invite you that as soon as you pop up on this screen, begin with liking or loving this live broadcast. And also, please ask a question or leave a comment. Let's know how you feel. Let us know you are here. Your comments, your questions, your presence is what will give power to what we are doing. So thank you very much. Now, uh, Fantin, I want to pull up. I always like to get different comments from what Weloshenka said about the rising generations. You have
All
said
right.
something powerful about them. I like to pull up what he said concerning the use of social media and invite your own thoughts on it. So let's listen to
So they must
Weloshenka.
first of all distance themselves and ask themselves what kind of society do they really want, ideally. And they must understand that in order to replace a leadership that has failed, no matter where, they must use different methods. They must learn to approach the community on their own basis, not simply by spraying money all over the place because they don't have it. They must use the technology such as social media instead of abusing it, which many of them do. They wake up in the morning and all they do is try to be the first to comment. And their comment is vapid, unserious, usually abusive, instead of arguments, instead of analysis, instead of a cogent approach to social problems. And you wonder, what kind of generation is this that cannot understand the magnificence of this technology?
So, what do you think?
Well, Oloshoyinka is an amazing person. I respect him a lot. And he said the right thing. Social media is powerful. I wonder what would have happened if during the NSAS protest, there was nothing like social media where people could stream live and have evidence of certain things that occurred. Probably would have the whole case would have been thrown under the carpets by now because the denials would have succeeded. Now, social media is powerful, but it depends on who is using it. In the past 1 year, I have been active on social media to promote my music. I keep talking about my music. That's what I do right now. And everywhere I go, I like to talk about it because it's one of the things that I think I had within me that was hidden for a long time. But now I've told myself to bring it up, and I'm using the social medias to make it happen. Now, I see when I go on social media, I see a lot of bias as regards the people who actually participate, and which majority of them are youths and young people. I had an experience once. I can't remember exactly what happened. I think it was during at the beginning of the pandemic, the coronavirus pandemic. Someone, I won't mention names, who had a huge social media influence, made a comment that people should pray. That's the way she put it. That people should that we are covered in the blood of Jesus Christ. And then I commented and commended her for speaking out and reminding us that there is power in the blood of Jesus. But I reminded her that the people should do what's right by protecting themselves, being socially distant from others and stuff. The funny thing was that she didn't say anything about my comment, but I saw a lot of attack from her followers, those who are loyal to her, who felt I was attacking their leader at that point. And this is what I see. We have a lot of these politicians, a lot of these rulers who are on social media making comments, showing off what they have, their riches and a lot of things. And the people keep praising them. If you say something against them, you become an enemy. So I think the people should re-educate themselves on how they use social media and take a stand. All right, it's about taking a stand. If we're going to say something against the leaders on social media, we should stand by it and not be biased on who is right and who is not right. A lot of stupid things happen on social media, and those also who are influencers, those who are influencers on social media have not helped us at all. With respect to great musicians we have in Nigeria, because I kind of follow them to see what's really happening in the musical world, they don't have any message for us. They don't have any message for us. You know, they have the fellowship that can turn things around. If you check the NSAS protest, this was possible because a lot of these influencers came up to speak, and the people that followed them, you know, supported them. If we can have this happen more often, then Nigeria will not be what it is. Africa will change through social media. So I support what Wale Soyinka said. Social media is powerful. It's a tool that God has blessed us with, which if we use it the right way, things can change.
Okay, when you talk about the right way, are you thinking that young people should use social media? It's almost free, you know, very little data, and you are up to raise their voice louder, you know, against the paucity of leadership, the rulers, the wicked rulers we have in place. You know, some describe them as blind and brainless because, you know, a lot of things are going on, and they can't relate to it for development. Do, do you think Welechick is inviting young people to use social media to raise the volume of their noise, of what
Yes,
they really need, so that it can be heard?
That's right. That's right. We should speak out in our little ways in whatever we do. Apart from promoting our businesses, it should be an avenue to let people know. Where I live during the NSAS protest, I stopped posting things that had to do with my music. I posted things that had to do with the problem we had in Nigeria, and it raised the awareness. A lot of people around me, neighbors, friends, started asking questions and used their own platform to magnify what's going on in the country. And in a little way, it reached a few people, and probably that's why it's still resonating up to today. So it's a powerful tool that we can use to speak out against the bad people who are ruling us. Someone said there, just to add to what you said, some people call them blind and brainless. They have brains. They are very smart people. You know, they are very smart people. They have visions. It's just that the visions they have is not for the benefit of the people. It's for their own selfish interest. They have vision. They are smart people. They are not blind. They know what's going on, but they have joy. They feel happy when we suffer. They feel satisfied when they oppress. So it's not as if they don't see what's going on. They know that people are hungry, because there is no reason why someone will put such amount of food. I don't know the whole story about this, but there is no justification for putting such amount of food in a warehouse during this period when people are going through hardship. There's no, they know what they're doing. They know. They are totally aware of what they're doing.
In other ways, we would rather address them as wicked people. You know, the scripture said wickedness in high places.
That is it. They're just a group of wicked people.
Yes. This conference is x-raying all the leadership problems we have in Africa, and thinking about the prospects for improving them. And we have had a great conversation with you. Now, I'm happy that you mentioned your music. I want to put you on the spot, because we can always have joy in our lives, not complain and complain and complain. I know that this conference is about discussing problems and prospects, and who knows, even music can be part of the prospect. What each person is doing, bringing to the table, should be part of the prospects. So I want to put you on the spot. I want to say that I listened to your recent outing on Instagram. I mean, your voice is awesome. I made a comment. I said your voice is awesome and that we need to hear more. And it is so beautiful. So can I put you on the spot in so much so that you will sing, at least even if it is a stanza for us here? Because it's not all about sorrow. We can have joy in this conference. So could you give us one of your numbers?
That's right. All right.
Things in motion. Yes, thank you.
Nice. So one of the songs that I released during this year, 2020, was called "Put Up a Smile," and "Put Up a Smile" was a track for me that brings hope at a time when people are down. You know, it's been a great year of learning, because some of the things we've learned this year, if we didn't have the challenges, we wouldn't have learned. So it's been a wonderful year. So my track, "Put Up a Smile," which is out everywhere on streaming platforms, comes as a hope-giving song. So it goes this way. Are you feeling broken? Feeling so cheated and left behind? Tonight, oh, are you feeling disappointed? All you've got has been taken from you. Oh, tonight, oh, and all you do is cry, wishing you could die tonight. Tonight, oh, sometimes I feel just the same. Think I'm going insane tonight. Oh, tonight, oh, now shut them eyes, baby, now shut them eyes. Just put up a smile after the rain, the sun will shine and everything will be fine. It will dry your tears off. Now shut your eyes, baby, now shut your eyes. Put your hands up and dance tonight. Dun-dun-dun. All right, I would have done that with a beat here, but I wasn't prepared.
Okay, thank you. There's something going on here for me. This is a very related message for what we are talking about. Now we have these problems that is giving us serious headache in Africa. This problem that is producing only confusion.
That's right.
For the rising generation, these issues that by wickedness in high places that is making things difficult for others, we can put a smile on our face.
That's right.
Everything.
That's right.
There's something I used to practice some years ago, and I played it around with many people. I said, if you are looking for something and you've been searching and searching and you can't find it, instead of breaking down crying, why don't you break out laughing or smiling?
Probably
And
smile.
I say, if you do, you will find it. And myself, my children, and some closer associates started experimenting with it. We discovered that when you actually start smiling, you loosen up, your brain will increase in thinking, take control, and then we usually find those objects we are looking for. So I
That's
think
correct.
the music is in place with this, what we're going through. Let's put a smile on our face, and it will reduce the tension and increase thinking capacity and our ability to act and do what is good. On this
Right.
note, we will bring to an end the conference of the Youth of Africa today, the Africa Youth Conference on the theme, the African Leadership Question, Problems and Prospects. Thank you very much, Mr. Samson Ngobi, for being with us in this occasion and then producing this wisdom you have shared. I want to assure you
Okay.
that this is going to go around in Africa and possibly the whole world, and it will be seen and noted for what it is, a huge contribution for the
Thank you
benefit
so
of
much for
Africa.
having me.
So you're welcome. So you have a great night and greetings to the family.
And you too. Bye bye.
Okay. Okay. Bye. Well, yeah, rising generations of Africa, the Africans generally, because all of us are involved. Thank you for showing up at this conference today. Thank you for several love and likes we've received. Thank you for the large number of people who have appeared and viewed. We want you to know that this conference series will be left on my personal profile on Facebook, which is Francis Meribe. It will be left on the African Town Hall profile on Facebook, page on Facebook. It is also there at Dating and Marriage Question and Answers group on Facebook. And it will be uploaded on the YouTube in a short while so that you can go through this conference again and take time to do them. And we're going to do an additional thing. Most of the presentations today will be broken down per person and shared in such a way that you can isolate one of the speakers and then take their interaction and learn what you need to learn at a time. It's interestingly, the number of people viewing are still increasing, so we appreciate all of you. Those who are coming now, before you leave, we want you to like, love, and comment and ask a question. Ask that question, we'll find it out in future and treat it at the next section of this conference, which comes up on Wednesday, the 16th of December 2020 at 11 a.m. in the morning for the morning session. The other announcement we want to make is that the evening section of this conference have been moved from 9 o'clock to 8 o'clock. The reason is that we discovered that by that time it's already almost midnight in East Africa, and we want those in East Africa to continue to participate in this conference as they have always done. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. Stay tuned and stay close. Watch this again. Start watch parties on it, and uh, have your family members join you to view this conference so that way you will learn what we are learning. At the end of this conference, the rising generations of Africa will come out with a voice, with a direction of what we do. So stay tuned, share, like, love. And when you go to our YouTube channel, the African Town Hall, we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Your subscription will help increase the capacity of African Town Hall to get to the whole world and touch lives and improve situation of things and then bring about what we desire to happen in Africa. Thank you very much for being with us. This has been today's edition, a special edition for that matter, of the African Youth Conference on the theme African Leadership Question, Problems and Prospects. Thank you and have a great evening.